to our Parent Academy Dealing with Digital Drama. I love that title. I think it says so much about this day and age that we're in with social media. So as you are all coming on board, thank you for your patience as we get our webinar started. And I will introduce our guest speaker and our subject, but we're so glad that you're here. So we're just going to give a minute or so for folks to log in. It does take a little bit of time. And while we're doing that, I just want to point out a few features for you. We are recording this webinar, and you'll be able to access it through our YouTube channel, our district YouTube channel. If you go into YouTube, you put Clover Park, and then under playlists at the top, you can just type in Parent Academy, and you will get a whole host of different topics that we have covered. And you're welcome to watch any that you want, or if you're looking specifically for dealing with digital drama, if you would like to pass this on or rewatch a portion, you are welcome to do that at any time. I also want to point out at the bottom of your screen, you have a few icons. One of them is the chat feature, and one of them is the Q&A feature. We are going to bring up different topics throughout our presentation, and we would love to have a dialogue with you. We'd love for you to share with us via chat. If you do have a question, please put it in the Q&A. So as we go along, and we're going to ask questions about your experiences, what happens in your world, and we would love for you to share. You don't have to share your name, or you can be anonymous in that. But in order for this to be a community of caring and sharing adults over this issue that is really complex and complicated, then we would love for you to join the conversation. And the easiest way to do that is through chat. So please feel free to put those in the chat as we go along. When we looked for, oh, she says, I can't hear you. So let me see if I can turn up my volume. Thank you so much on that. I'm going to see if I can turn up my volume. I have a microphone here. Is that helping? Maybe if I push the microphone closer, will that help? I am able to hear. Great. Thank you so much. All right. So welcome, everybody. I'm watching the numbers of our participants grow as people are logging in. So this is from Jennifer. I can hear, you might need to change settings. So if you can't hear, there's a little arrow on next to your microphone, and sometimes that helps if you change settings, whether and how you are receiving the audio. So I'll let you work with that while I go over some of the things that I was saying earlier. And that is, we would love for you to be part of our conversation in this meeting tonight, because I think that this is a community of adults and all of us are parents, which is why you're here. We can help share together and support each other, and maybe find some solutions along the way. So I will introduce myself. My name is Holly Boki, and I'm the Family and Community Partnership Coordinator for the Clover Park School District. And the idea behind Parent Academy is that this is an opportunity for us to come together, share resources, and collaborate with community in order to help support students and our families. And so we're really glad that you're here. As I mentioned earlier, this will be recorded, and you can access this later through our district YouTube channel. So right now, I'd like to introduce our presenter for this evening. Phoebe Sunflower Worth is an educator, and she's a mother, and she is also a part of our community. And so we invite Phoebe into, you know, none of us are experts at digital drama or digital communication, but together, that's why this conversation is so important, that we can join together. And so we have some wonderful information that we are going to share with you from Common Sense Media. Common Sense Media has provided us the materials for our presentation, and Phoebe is going to be our presenter. And if you do have questions, I will be the moderator following your conversation through chat and bring up what you have to say. And if you do have a question, please put that in our Q&A. So let's get started, Phoebe.
Thank you so much, Holly. Thank you for having me this evening. It's very nice to join everyone. And it's a pleasure to be a part of this evening with Clover Park School District. As Holly mentioned, this workshop is brought to you by Common Sense Media, which is part of Common Sense. It's an independent nonprofit organization that's dedicated to improving the lives of kids and families by providing the trustworthy information, education, and independent voice they need to thrive in the 21st century and in Clover Park School District. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into our content. So everyone, welcome to the workshop. There is a PDF handout that you are welcome to access with the link that I've attached below, or you can journal in your own personal journal, or just find a notebook and jot down some notes as we progress through the content this evening. There will be a Q&A area that Holly will be navigating, so feel free to drop anything into the Q&A area or into the virtual chat. So let's begin with this question right here. Does your children or does your child sometimes seem upset after reading texts or social media messages? What causes the drama? Do you experience drama online? And what do you do if they come to you for support? What's the biggest challenge for you when it comes to this digital drama? So think about how digital drama affects your family personally, and then feel free to enter these answers into the chat. So we'll just start with the first question. Does your child or children sometimes seem upset after reading text or social media messages? And take your time to answer these, and you don't necessarily have to answer them in order. By all means, feel free to jump around into the questions and dig into them a little bit. And Holly and I will try to read your answers out loud.
Unmute. What I love about this question so much is that they're, very rarely will your child or your student come up to you and say, I'm really upset by what somebody has said, but instead you'll see the reaction. Maybe it's a door slam. Maybe it's kind of change in body position, posture, slamming the phone down, putting the phone away, picking it back up again quickly, going up to their room, slamming the door. Those types of things oftentimes are an indicator that something that they read or read online, it was uncomfortable to hear, hurtful, or just plain mean. So if you would like to put anything in the chat of maybe some of the body language that you observe at home, this may be, I will say, I have boys and girl, and I will tell you it's very different from how my boys reacted, very differently from how my daughter reacted. So maybe if you are the mother of boys, it looks different than that. Maybe it's the going outside or picking on a sibling even. I mean, it can be any type of reaction that you get from your child.
Yeah, that's a very good point, Holly. And some of those things are going to be nonverbal when you see these kind of unfold. And depending on their age might make a difference too on how they react and their experience with social media in general.
Oh, I just realized that I put something in the chat. I wanted to give you the Common Sense Media.org website, which is free information available to anyone. It's got great resources for parents, great articles as well for parents. I thought I put it in the chat, but I actually just sent it to Phoebe. So now I've shared it with everybody. When you are looking at your chat feature, you can text everybody or chat with everybody. Make sure that that is in the everyone mode so that we are able to see your comments that you place in chat.
Thank
We
you,
don't have,
Holly. I
we
think
don't.
we'll go ahead and move on to the next slide. And as you go through the presentation, the webinar, you're welcome to jot down some notes, and we'll have an opportunity at the end to share out if you, or if something occurs to you as we move forward, please feel free to just add it to the chat and we can read it on whatever slide we're on. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. And this is a video. I hope everyone can hear me okay here. Let's hear from some teens about their experiences. And as you watch it, it might be helpful to also jot down something from the video that you could relate to.
Right, I'm not hearing, Phoebe, I'm not hearing that. So I'm wondering if we can enable that sound. Did anybody else hear it? And maybe it wasn't me. Did anybody else hear the video that was being played? If you could let us know, that would be awesome. It looks like it's not. What if we click at the where it says click here? I don't couldn't hear. What did you hear? Well, we didn't hear anything. So we're going to see if we can get that. I know that's in a. No, we love technology, but at the same time, sometimes technology can be so complicated. And so I think that we need to make sure that we are.
How about now? Can we hear the video?
Still not.
Okay.
And that just makes it, there's not a, let's see. Shoot, we really want you to hear that. I'm looking under our options.
I can go ahead and drop this into the chat.
That'd be great. No, everyone's saying no, can't hear. Bummer. Let's see if we can.
Okay, so I dropped this into the chat. If you'd like to go ahead, you're welcome to.
So
Bottom left
at
might
home,
be
you
the
can
audio
click on
setting.
what you saw in the chat, that link. And then.
And I'll go ahead and play it and give ourselves, let's say 4.5 minutes. Is that the?
Bottom left might be audio setting on your screen. We don't.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not. Let's see. Try one more time. Share computer sound.
I don't see the link in the chat. Oh, here, let me put it in. I think what happened is we did the same thing. Oh no, that's not it. Let's see if I can check whom you're sending it to, Phoebe. I think you're, instead of sending it to everybody, you sent it to.
Yes.
Can you
Yes,
resend?
I can resend this. There we go. Sorry about that. All right, let's try that one more time. And I appreciate your technical difficulties. Yes.
We're going to be, by number 4, we're going to be great.
I was just going to say that as well. Please forgive us as we go through these technological kinks here. So we'll go back. You're welcome to open it up. We'll give you 4 minutes to go ahead and view that, and we will do our best here on our end to try to enable the sound here.
Great. please let us know in the chat if you were able to play that, and then we'll go forward. I think it's something in our settings. I apologize, everyone. We're unable to get that to play correctly. Let's see. Yeah, maybe. Okay. Able to play, still finishing. Great. Thank you, Hayden. And when you are done, please indicate, if you wouldn't mind, in the chat.
To avoid digital drama, but I think
I heard it. I heard it there for a minute, Phoebe.
Brilliant. Okay, so I have figured out the setting on there. I am going to go ahead and buffer it to the middle, and we'll watch that middle part. Is there anyone that didn't get an opportunity to watch it? I'd be happy to start it all from the beginning. Feel free to contribute.
Why don't we just play it from the beginning? It's short.
Play it from the beginning?
4 minutes.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then we'll have a conversation.
People fight text all the time. You know, digital drama is a thing.
there are ways to avoid digital drama, but I think it's mainly inevitable.
You need to like get ready to like have something be said that maybe you won't like.
On social media, you know, everything social-wise gets a bit more intense. It just causes so much unnecessary drama, I would say.
Sometimes I'll need to take a break from it, 'cause sometimes it's too much for me. And then if there's like drama going on, I'll set it aside.
And even though there are steps that we can take to reduce it, it's not going to end.
All right. I heard, didn't see, before you could see, didn't hear. So I'm hoping that most people were able to then hear what was being said. These are students sharing their experiences. I think that if you took a poll in any middle school, 5th grade, 9th grade classroom, other places too, I'm just throwing that out, would hear a lot of that same thing that we just heard. How about you at home? What did you hear?
So if you had an opportunity to listen to the whole video, we're wondering what you could relate to. And this whole process can be tricky. It can be challenging to navigate digital drama. So let's talk about kind of some of the big picture practices recommended by Common Sense Media and what we can use and what we can talk about our kids and how to avoid that digital drama. We're interested in what kind of contributions you have.
One of the things,
go back to this slide.
One of the things that said, what was shared, was certainly easier to say things in online than in person. Somebody else shared the hearing at home, the wanting to step away, but yet being sucked back into the drama. That whole, I don't want this, but at the same point, it's really hard. That is such human nature for us to be sucked back in.
Yes, it's challenging sometimes to take a step back and to think about how you can respond, how you can engage when it's all done virtually. I think that's why a lot of us are here tonight.
Yes, and your job as a parent too. If nothing else, I want to empower you that you are the parent and you are still the parent. And it's okay to say, hey, well, let's take a step away from that. Maybe you can help by, let's go for a walk, or let's talk about something else. Let's make something together. Why don't you leave your phone behind and we'll go come to the store with me. Helping them to step away from the drama is so critical as a parent.
Yes, I agree, Holly. It can be very challenging. So let's talk a little bit about some of the tips that might help us, some strategies that could potentially encourage us to make some choices to be able to relate to our teens and to move forward if we're in situations where it can be tricky to communicate online. So bodies are changing, friendships are shifting, identities are forming. This tip has always been very true, but technology, I think, amplifies it all. So first, let's remember when we're thinking about this piece to just remember to tell your teen or tween to just ignore that digital drama, that piece that will probably cause more conflict for them, between them and their other children and the other children that they're communicating. And it's challenging because sometimes your first instincts might be to share screenshots or respond quickly, but this might make things worse. And it might be good to just walk away and take a deep breath and reset. It might give them another perspective to be able to come back to whatever their communication is with their friend or peer and have a different scope on it. So, I think sometimes, go ahead, Holly.
I just wanted to make sure everyone can see that. Can you see tip number 1 on the screen? Is that what you're looking at? I'm assuming that's what I see. It wasn't there for a while. Yes, great. Thank you so much. Okay, sorry, Phoebe.
That's okay. No, that's wonderful. And again, thanks for jumping in with our technology tonight. So this is tip number 2. A lot of online drama is caused by disinhibition. Disinhibition being the sense of just of being so bold to just go out there and communicate with whatever information that you'd like to communicate with. The extra cruelty that comes with that is the anonymity of being behind the keyboard, meaning that you're behind a keyboard and no one else, you can't see a person's face, you can't connect with them personally. So after they've taken a moment to stop and think about this communication, if something is they're struggling with or something has upset them, perhaps you just stop and think and ask them to pretend that you're the other person and kind of do a little role model. Have them tell you what they're about to type and then pretend that they're saying it to someone's face, to your actual face, instead of saying it through a virtual screen. And this might help them revise their approach or revise what they're going to say to that person. I think when you're talking face to face, it's a very different communication than what's happening virtually. You can't see that body language. You can't see a lot of the social cues that you may see in person. So that role modeling might give them an opportunity to experience that, even if it's not with the person that they're communicating with.
I think even as a parent, you can role model that. Like sometimes I find when I've read something that makes me angry or upset, I need to walk away for a minute and then I need to read it out loud before I hit send. I need myself as an adult to be able to take a minute and think how I want that to be shared to the other person. And maybe you could say, hey, if you ever want to read your text out loud to me before just so that you want to make sure that you're sending the right message, you would be that, offer to be that set of ears before it's that hitting send and then, boy, I wish I wouldn't have hit send.
Exactly, yes. Let's go on to tip number 3. So online conversations don't give us body language, as we spoke about in the last tip, and the tone of voice or the eye contact, which can be really important when really big feelings or emotions are involved. And I think this is the piece that we're getting into with this tip, that most children will really resist in-person conversations, but they'll also know that it's probably a better way to resolve a problem. So of course, this only works when the drama stems from someone they really know in life, like in real life, outside of this virtual world, which can be different because of the venue that we have right now with COVID. But that makes it all the more important, I think, to resolve these things in person, is to help them make a plan to talk about this and to talk with this person in person if it starts to get hard or difficult or uncomfortable.
All right, I'm controlling your moving the slides forward, by the way, Phoebe, just to let you know.
You
I
are.
don't, I don't know why I have control, but I do.
I was
So,
wondering. Sometimes
yeah,
I'll
that's
pop
why it's
back,
kind of
so-
like, it's a little wonky. Yeah,
Thank
that's,
you.
yes. Here's tip number four.
Is to help them take control, to use settings and in-app tools to lessen drama with strangers. Sometimes that online drama comes from people we don't even know. In those cases, it can be even more tempting to participate in the drama because we probably won't ever see that person in person. But that's not really the best approach, right? It could just potentially escalate these feelings and these big emotions and a lot of these altercations and conflicts that are happening. So instead, help the children go through the settings of the app where the drama is kind of happening. And if you allow them to have a public account, for instance, you can change the account status or just certain posts to private or filter comments or block report users. And with your own control, I mean, it gives the child control too in the virtual world. And while there will always be a person posting things that are potentially hurtful or infuriating, they only have as much power as we really give them. So your child's real relationships and the opinions of the people who love them are what really matters. And I think this is so powerful when it comes to Instagram or some of the other formats where you can just continue to post things and continue to post whatever you're thinking about. And you could go ahead and mute that. If it's upsetting your child, go ahead and just turn the mute button off, take a little break from this person virtually. You know, perhaps you're just seeing them in person, and then maybe they can step away from that drama, or they won't even be exposed to that drama by taking a break there.
Another great tip, and I just want to throw that out, is that oftentimes we don't recognize that sometimes this will happen late at night and maybe we've gone to bed, but the phone is in their room. And so they may not get a good night's sleep because they're exposed to lots of texts that are happening, and maybe inappropriate ones, or certainly ones that, you know, if the friend was over at 10 at night, you'd probably usher the friend out the door and say, it's time to go home, right? So think about a docking station or a place outside of the bedroom where that phone can live overnight. And maybe maybe that becomes just part of the getting ready for bed, is that you put the phone goes to bed too, and the phone gets turned off, and then they get to go to sleep. Because again, just like one of our parents shared, the wanting to step away, but how easily it is to get sucked in. And so you know you need to get some sleep, but oh, just one more text, and then the drama starts. So putting that away for a night will also help your child get the sleep they need so they can deal with some of this stuff in real life.
Thank you, Holly. Thank you so much for that personal tip too. And if you have any other personal tips that have worked for you, please feel free to drop them into the chat or the Q&A. It's always wonderful to have that personal information from your own personal experience too. So let's think about how we can apply these 4 tips at home. Take a moment. We're going to give you, we thought about 10 minutes, is that 5 to 10 minutes, to take some time to think about how one or more of these strategies might work with your child, how and when you might use them, and then use the space under the question in the handout provided to write down your thoughts. In this context, it's going to be a little bit modified. You're welcome to add them into the handout, but we're also going to invite you to share in the chat with us. Feel free to add any of those strategies like I just mentioned, or if you have any other questions about those strategies, feel free to ask. So another question here is, what have you used at home and what works for your family? That's what Holly just dropped in here. Thank you, Holly. Reframing that a little bit more simply. Thank you.
I know we talked about a handout. There it's just a space to write down these ideas to these questions. It's really not anything more than that of just, if you have a piece of paper or you journal or you have some sticky notes, or you just want to compose your thoughts in the chat, feel free. We're just wanting to pass around and share with each other what works at your house and maybe give somebody else an idea of what could work at their house.
And we have about 2 more minutes left, so feel free to drop anything into the chat. If you'd like to contribute, we welcome any contributions.
I'm also interested in what you might see in other families, right? There, we all have different ways of using digital technology, and as my kids got older and they got, as my kids got older, I will tell you that my daughter got her phone, a cell phone, younger than her brothers did. So maybe that was also part of it, is the age at which maybe you allowed a cell phone or gave a cell phone, or your child needed a cell phone based on working parents or getting a ride after school or something like that. So you're welcome to share those thoughts as well. Of I love this one. We have the kids put their phone on chargers in my bedroom at night so they aren't on their phones during bedtime. Such a great idea, and great to institute that. I love how you said that you do that all together. So it's not a punishment for the one child, or you all do that. It becomes part of the routine. Great idea. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you so much for sharing, Jennifer. I have heard before too, some families will check in their phones when they get home at night, just to have a couple of hours of screen-free time in those first couple hours when they're home, to be able to do homework or just reset or have dinner. So that's a wonderful strategy, even if there's like a check-in or check-out station somewhere in a bedroom or in the foyer, wherever that might be.
I have also heard of a wonderful idea, and this was used mostly with adults, but I've seen teenagers do it, that when they go out to a restaurant or maybe out to dinner, they all put their phones down, and the first person that grabs their phone has to pay then for the tab for the dinner. So that might be something, because I think we all recognize that it can be a distraction to having real conversation with real people. And I thought, what a funny way, but these were young adults doing that. And I thought, oh, they're recognizing that it can be a distraction.
Well, thank you for sharing, Jennifer. And again, please feel free to, oh, thank you. Let's see, Kendra says, I think it's important to take breaks from social media occasionally. I find that my kids and family in general are sometimes more pleasant to be around when they aren't glued to a phone. We also put the phones up for the night in our room, so there isn't any temptation when needing to sleep and rest. Fantastic. So Kendra and both Kendra and Jennifer share this tip. But yes, I agree, Kendra. It can be really empowering to do like a screen-free week, which is an incentive that happens the first week in May. There's actually some information that I could pass on to Holly, to pass on to you, to take a break. It's a national incentive for screen-free week. And some families will do 100 days without screens. That's another challenge that I have heard of other families doing. And it really gives you an opportunity to reset and focus on the things that are different than screens in general.
But I love that, taking away the temptation, because it's so easy, isn't it? Just to do one more text or respond one more time.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Kendra and Jennifer, for both sharing, and thank you all for your support and your insight tonight. We're going to go ahead and move on to the next slide. Are there any strategies or tips in particular that you might take home with you? So feel free to drop those into the chat if you'd like to. If there's one in particular that you learned from tonight, or one that maybe you learned from another peer in the sharing. And we'll just do 2 minutes for this share out. Feel free to drop those into the chat. Maybe you know, Kendra's insight was helpful, or Jennifer's, or maybe one of the tips was helpful, or maybe one of something that Holly shared. What are you going to take with you tonight?
I was going to see if I could get we had some terms that someone had shared with me earlier, and I was asking him if he would be willing to share some of those terms with you, of different ways that kids, because when at the root oftentimes of digital drama can be, I won't say it's often, it can be cyberbullying, which is oftentimes someone will say, oh, this is happening, and they're worried about their child being bullied online. And so there are different terms in how that happens and what that may look like. I was earlier with one of our school counselors going, he had sent me some information, and I was going to see if I can pull that up to be able to share that with you. But you know, I'm a guru when it comes to a lot of this, so bear with me as I see if I can get that and pull that information up. Because I thought, if nothing else, we want to send you off with some new words that you didn't know existed when it comes to, here we go. Oh, here we go. Let's see. Okay, so I'm going to have Phoebe, if you would stop sharing, maybe I can share. Let's see.
Certainly, and I just want to add in here, James Reeves Mario contributed. Some of that information actually comes from the Common Sense website. Laugh out loud.
That's so great. That's so
yes,
great.
It's an outstanding
Okay.
resource.
Well,
so I will stop sharing here.
Great. So
and then I also wanted to add in here, this is the Screen Free information. It's screenfree.org, and you're welcome to look at that information too. It's for a national incentive for Screen Free Week in the first week of May. It's kind of a fun practice.
Oh, guess what? I just found the share sound button. I love that. Okay, so can everyone see what I can't see the chat anymore? So Phoebe's in charge of that, because as soon as I start sharing, then I can't see that. But that means that I'm hoping that you can see the screen. And so this is some information that Mario Reeves, who's a longtime counselor in one of our elementary schools, has shared. And I loved that we're giving parents some new words in their dictionary when it comes to digital drama. But we talked about what cyberbullying is, but I love this one. Do you know what a subtweet is? And I love his Urban Dictionary. It's the shortening of a subliminal tweet, which is directing or referring to a particular person without mentioning their name or directly mentioning them. So oftentimes kids will say that they're kind of being called out, but their name of the individual will not be in anywhere in the text. But the kids, because of context, know what happens in school and know that they are being called out. As it says, they're calling out because they did something and they're being made fun of, or because of a situation, and they get other kids to like pile on. That often happens. I think this is interesting. Females tend to subtweet more than males. Just in raising different gender children, my daughter likes words a lot. Subtweets are a bad way to deal with issue, as most of these kind of quick texts are. And of course, not the best way to deal with it. Instead, these problems are being broadcasted to the world for potential employers, college recruiters, and friends to see. So that is another way to talk to your kids. That, and we're going to be talking about this in a future social media workshop. Is really like that. It doesn't go away. You can delete it, but it really doesn't go away. And so why it's important to pay attention to what you're saying. The writer is simply hurting their reputation with their own friends and anyone who sees the update. Often the biggest victim of the subtweet is the author. So a great conversation to have with your kids. Who is this really hurting in the eyes of others? Is it hurting the intended target, or is it actually hurting the subtweeter? So we'll go on to the next one. See if I can go on to the next. Let me disable this. And other forms of cyberbullying, I think this was interesting as well. Vague booking, equivalent is the Facebook equivalent of subtweeting. Things like, I hate it in English class when the student just is, brown nosing the teacher, sucking up to the teacher, and say they finished the book when we know they haven't. So the student who did that knows they're being called out. So this is, you're not tagged, you're not mentioned, but the student knows who's being called out. We've seen this in schools where even kids know a look across a room of not to say something. So, I mean, there is quite a culture that happens underground with kids. And this is another way that they can target a victim. Direct messages sent to them by text, instant messaging services, or private or social media accounts. They don't have to have an audience, but they allow the person bullying to interrupt and creep into home life with hurtful messages. In this case, they may or may not know who is behind the messages. Even if a text comes from a particular friend's cell phone number, that person might claim that they were not the one texting. Shaming is another one. A Facebook group called 100 Reasons Why We Hate Sarah James isn't sent to Sarah. It's not impersonating her, but it then acts as a catalyst for other kids to pile on, and as if that's okay behavior. So here are the questions. There's a lot of great content with this, but again, you are welcome to go anytime and read any of the articles on Common Sense Media. They're great. Things like, what could you say to try and support your teenager when this happens, when they are the victim of that? What do you want your teen or tween to know about digital drama? How do you share your values about how to treat others in the context of online communication? Again, it's so easy to say something unkind online, but when face to face, would they ever be able to say that to that person? And having that conversation with your kids. Oftentimes we hear families say, oh, my child is the victim of cyberbullying, but there are some very strict rules on what bullying is. And sometimes it's just hurtful or mean, but it's not ongoing. It's a one-off comment or a comment here or there. Digital drama is not necessarily cyberbullying, but it certainly can lead to that. All right. And then
I think the other
again,
piece that's so imperative in remembering as you're talking about this, Holly, is that we're all a community and we're all kind of experiencing this together, even though, especially in the times of COVID, we're really kind of operating in these independent silos in our own family microcosm. It's so important for us to reach out to other mothers and other fathers and other grandparents sometimes to talk about what's going on with your teen or tween and what you're experiencing, because I think some of the best conversations can happen on the playground or just over coffee about how we can create strategies and work together to just be the best and show up and for our own teens and tweens. I don't know about you, Holly, but I've had some of those wonderful conversations with others' moms too.
well, I think there's a whole lot happens in the pickup line, the soccer sideline, the you name it. Many times in sports, we're all parents, right? We all care about our own children and our children's friends, and so sometimes that requires us to be a little bit vulnerable and to say, "I need help." One of the things that also happened that I think is a kind of a misnomer is that oftentimes parents will say, well, they're just being moody, right? My daughter doesn't ever come and eat dinner with us anymore. My son doesn't, because teenagers are just moody. Well, actually, that may be a sign of something bigger than just moodiness. Kids are very social for the most part and like to know, even if they're not a huge extrovert child, they still like to, they have a group of friends and they like to do their thing. So if you've seen a big change in how they're acting, have a conversation, start a conversation, because it's not just typical teenage moodiness, it could be something bigger. And so always, just open the door and allow your child to share what has happened. And sometimes that's sitting there and just waiting. Or I always loved the carpool situation, because that was an opportunity where you're not looking at them, you're doing something else, or you're cooking and letting them talk and vent. Those are a good opportunity for that. We don't have any more information to share from you. We thank you, Mario, for sharing what you looked up and you researched for us. That was great.
Yes, thank you so much, everyone, for attending tonight. And we hope that you found something helpful or a strategy that potentially you could take home. And let's continue the conversation. Hopefully, if you have some strategies to share, please feel free to reach out. Or if you would like more information, feel free to reach out after the webinar. I believe it will be published. Is that correct, Holly?
Right, it will be on our district YouTube page. So when you go to the Clover Park School District webpage, you can just type in Clover Park School District YouTube. And then there is something called a playlist, and there is Parent Academy. And at the top of under a playlist under Parent Academy, you have a whole host of different options of different webinars we've done. And then also we will have this one posted. But thank you for joining us. I do appreciate you being here and taking the time and being part of the conversation. Next week, we will be talking about friendships and boundaries. And again, how to help your child place those boundaries, because sometimes when they do, then their friendship can actually thrive. But we do thank you all for joining us, and we hope you have a great evening.
Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening.
Good night.
Good night.